You should be grateful I even date you publicly, she said at her company party. I agreed completely. Then I very publicly started dating her boss's daughter. HR had some interesting questions for her the following Monday. So here's the thing about dating someone who thinks they're doing you a favor just by being seen with you. Eventually, they'll say it out loud. And when they do, you get a choice. You can either shrink down and accept it, or you can take notes and plan accordingly. I chose option 2. My name's Jake. I'm 32, and up until 3 months ago, I was dating this woman named Victoria. We'd been together about 18 months. Met through mutual friends at a barbecue, hit it off, started seeing each other regularly. She worked as a senior analyst at some corporate consulting firm downtown, the kind of place where everyone wears expensive suits and talks about synergy and quarterly projections. I'm a lead mechanic at a specialized automotive restoration shop. We work on vintage cars, high-end classics, stuff that costs more than most people's houses. It's good work, pays well, and I'm damn good at what I do. But to Victoria, I was always just a mechanic. Guy who got his hands dirty. Guy who didn't wear a suit to work. Guy who wasn't part of her corporate world. The relationship was fine at first. She seemed genuinely interested in what I did, asked questions about the cars we were restoring, even came by the shop a couple times to see the '67 Shelby GT 500 we were rebuilding for a collector in California. She'd smile, take pictures, post them on social media with captions about how talented I was. But somewhere around the 6-month mark, things shifted. Subtle at first. She'd make little comments about how I should consider going back to school, maybe get an MBA, do something more professional. She'd suggest I dress better when we went out, even though my style was perfectly fine. Jeans, nice boots, button-down shirts, nothing fancy, but clean and presentable. Then came the comments about her coworkers. How successful they were. How ambitious. How they were all climbing the corporate ladder while I was just staying put at the shop. She never said it directly, but the implication was clear. I wasn't ambitious enough for her standards. I let it slide because the relationship had other good points. We got along well enough, had similar taste in movies and food, and the physical side of things worked. Plus, I'm not the type to make a big deal out of every little criticism. Pick your battles and all that. But the thing about letting stuff slide is that people take it as permission to keep pushing. And Victoria kept pushing. About 3 months ago, she invited me to her company's annual holiday party. Big formal event at a hotel ballroom, open bar, fancy dinner, the whole deal. She was weirdly specific about what I should wear. Sent me links to suit rentals, even suggested I get a haircut from a particular salon she liked. I wore one of my own suits. Yeah, mechanics can own nice suits. Got a regular haircut from my usual barber, and showed up looking perfectly presentable. Not trying to impress anyone, just not trying to embarrass her either. The party was exactly what I expected. Bunch of corporate types standing around making small talk about work stuff I didn't care about. Victoria immediately ditched me to network, which was fine. I grabbed some food, found a corner to hang out in, and watched the whole scene unfold like an anthropologist studying a particularly boring tribe. About an hour in, Victoria came back with a group of her coworkers. 3 women and 2 guys, all around her age, all dressed like they were auditions for a business stock photo. They were talking about some project that had gone well, patting themselves on the back for crushing their quarterly goals or whatever. Victoria introduced me as her boyfriend. Nobody seemed particularly interested. One of the guys, tall dude named Brandon, with the kind of haircut that costs $200, gave me a handshake that was trying way too hard to be firm. The women smiled politely and immediately went back to their conversation. I was fine with being wallpaper. Seriously. I had zero interest in discussing profit margins or whatever else they found fascinating. I was just there to support Victoria, show my face, and then go home and forget the whole evening existed. But then one of the women, this blonde named Catherine, who had the energy of someone who peaked in high school, asked Victoria how we met. Victoria told the barbecue story, and Catherine laughed in this way that made it clear she thought the whole thing was adorable and slightly beneath her. Then Brandon asked what I did for work. I told him I was a lead mechanic at a restoration shop. He nodded like I just told him I cleaned sewers for a living. One of the other women, a brunette named Ashley, asked if that meant I worked on regular cars like at a Jiffy Lube or something. I explained very calmly that we specialized in vintage and classic car restoration. High-end work, rare vehicles, collector clients from all over the country. I mentioned the Shelby we were working on, the '59 Corvette we'd just finished, the '71 Cuda we had coming in next month. Brandon perked up at that. Turns out he was into cars. Started asking actual intelligent questions about the restoration process, what kind of challenges we ran into, how we sourced original parts. We had a decent conversation for about 5 minutes. I could see Victoria getting uncomfortable, but I couldn't figure out why. Then Catherine, because people like her can't stand not being the center of attention, said something like, "Well, that's certainly an interesting career choice." The way she said it made it clear she thought it was anything but interesting. Victoria laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not an uncomfortable laugh, a laugh that said she agreed. And then she said it. "Yeah, well, Jake's passionate about what he does. I think it's sweet. I mean, he should be grateful I even date him publicly, considering how different our professional worlds are. But I think it's important to be open-minded about these things." She said it with this bright smile, like she'd just complimented me. The group laughed. Not mean laughter, just that casual kind of chuckle people give when someone makes a mildly amusing observation. Like she'd made a joke at my expense, and everyone found it charming. I just stood there, didn't react, didn't flinch, just processed what I'd heard. She should be grateful I even date him publicly. Not we're from different backgrounds. Not it's interesting having different careers. Not any of the dozens of ways she could have framed it that weren't completely insulting. She was grateful for dating me publicly. I smiled, nodded, took a sip of my water, let the moment pass. Victoria didn't even notice. She just kept talking with her group, laughing about something else, completely oblivious to the fact that she just fundamentally changed our relationship in about 10 seconds. I stuck around for another hour, played the role of supportive boyfriend, smiled when appropriate, made small talk with a few other people who wandered by. The whole time, my brain was running calculations. Here's what I knew. Victoria had just told me, and a group of her co-workers, exactly how she saw me. I wasn't her partner. I wasn't her equal. I was her charity case. The interesting project. The guy she dated to prove how open-minded and accepting she was. And she'd said it so casually, so comfortably, that it clearly wasn't the first time she'd thought it. This was how she actually viewed our relationship. I was the boyfriend she had to justify to her corporate friends. I could have confronted her right there, made a scene, told her exactly what I thought about her comment. But that's not how I operate. That's emotional. That's reactive. That's what she'd expect from the blue-collar boyfriend who doesn't understand her sophisticated world. So instead, I did nothing. Just filed the information away and started planning. We left the party around 11. Victoria was in a great mood, talking about how well the night went, how impressed her boss seemed with the project results, how Catherine and Ashley wanted to get drinks with us sometime. I drove us back to her place. She invited me up. I told her I had an early morning at the shop and should probably head home. She seemed slightly disappointed but didn't push it, kissed me goodnight, told me she'd call me tomorrow, and headed inside. I sat in my truck for about 10 minutes, just thinking. Then I drove home and started doing research. Victoria's company wasn't hard to learn about. They had a whole website with staff bios, organizational charts, the works. Her boss was a guy named Robert Chen. Scratch that, different last name. Robert Patterson. Senior partner, late 50s, been with the company for 20 plus years. Married with 2 daughters. I found his daughters on social media pretty quickly. The older one, Jennifer, was 30, worked in finance in New York, married. The younger one, Melissa, was 28, worked as a project coordinator at a nonprofit downtown, single according to her profiles. Melissa's social media was public. She posted regularly about the causes she worked on, fundraising events she organized, local restaurants she liked. She seemed normal, down to earth, nothing like the corporate automatons I'd met at Victoria's party. And she was gorgeous. Not in the polished, high-maintenance way Victoria was. More natural. Better smile. Actual personality showing through in her posts. She'd posted 3 days earlier about volunteering at a community garden on Saturday mornings. Included the location and time in case anyone wanted to join. I marked it in my calendar. The next few days with Victoria were normal. We texted, made plans for dinner later in the week, did our usual routine. She never mentioned the comment at the party. I never brought it up. As far as she was concerned, everything was fine. Thursday night, I showed up for dinner at her place. She'd cooked pasta, opened some sparkling cider, set up the dining room all nice. We ate, talked about our weeks, watched a movie afterward. She was affectionate, happy, completely normal. And the whole time I was just detached, going through the motions, watching her talk and thinking about how she really saw me, about that casual way she dismissed me in front of her friends, about how grateful she was to date me publicly. After the movie, she started getting frisky, pulling me toward her bedroom. I went along with it, but honestly, my heart wasn't in it. Something had broken at that party, and I couldn't unbreak it. Afterward, lying there while she fell asleep, I realized I was done. Not angry, not hurt, just done. You can't stay in a relationship with someone who fundamentally disrespects you. And once you see it that clearly, you can't unsee it. I left early Friday morning while she was still sleeping. Texted her later that I had a busy weekend coming up at the shop. Would talk to her next week. She sent back a bunch of hearts and kiss emojis. Saturday morning, I showed up at the community garden at 8:30. It was in a nice neighborhood about 15 minutes from downtown. A converted vacant lot that had been turned into raised beds and garden plots. About a dozen people were there, pulling weeds, watering plants, doing general maintenance. I spotted Melissa pretty quickly. She was in jeans and a t-shirt, dirt on her hands, laughing with an older woman about something. She looked completely different from her social media photos. More relaxed, more real. I grabbed some gloves from the supply table and started working on one of the empty plots that clearly needed attention. Pulled weeds for about 20 minutes before Melissa made her way over. "Hey, haven't seen you here before," she said, friendly and casual. I introduced myself, told her I'd seen the post about volunteers being welcome and figured I'd help out. We talked while we worked. She explained what they were doing with the garden, the community programs they ran, how they donated produce to local food banks. She asked what I did for work. I told her about the restoration shop. Her eyes lit up immediately. "Oh wow, that's so cool. My dad's really into classic cars. He's always dragging me to car shows and trying to explain the difference between various engine types." I asked her what kind of cars he liked. She rattled off a few makes and models, including a '68 Mustang he'd been trying to restore in his garage for about 10 years, but never had time to finish. We talked cars for a while. Then the conversation drifted to other stuff, what she did at the nonprofit, the events they were planning, the fact that fundraising was way harder than it looked. She was easy to talk to, genuinely interested in the conversation, no pretension or corporate speak. Around 11, the garden work wrapped up. Some of the volunteers were heading to a nearby diner for lunch. Melissa invited me along. I went. The diner was exactly the kind of place I liked. Old school, cheap food, coffee that could strip paint. We sat in a booth with a few other volunteers, talked and laughed for about an hour. Melissa had this way of making everyone feel included in the conversation, keeping things light but interesting. As people started leaving, it ended up being just me and Melissa. We kept talking. She asked about specific cars we'd worked on, told me about her dad's Mustang project in more detail, shared stories about growing up with a father who spent every weekend at car shows. I mentioned that if her dad ever wanted a second opinion on his restoration, I'd be happy to take a look. No charge, just car guy helping out another car guy. Her face brightened. Really? He'd love that. He gets stuck on stuff and won't ask anyone for help because he thinks he should figure it out himself. I gave her my number. She texted me right there so I'd have hers. "I'll talk to him this week," she said. "Fair warning, he'll probably talk your ear off about cars once he gets started." "That's literally my job," I said. "I get paid to let people talk my ear off about cars." She laughed. It was a good laugh. Genuine. We left the diner around 1. She had to get to another volunteer thing. I had some errands to run. She thanked me for helping at the garden and said she'd be in touch about her dad's Mustang. I drove home feeling better than I had all week. Sunday, Victoria texted asking if I wanted to come over for dinner. I told her I was swamped with work stuff, maybe later in the week. Monday morning, Melissa texted me. Her dad would love to have me look at the Mustang. Was I free Wednesday evening? I told her Wednesday worked great. Victoria called Monday night. Wanted to know what I was up to, seemed a little put out that I'd been busy all weekend. I kept it light, told her the shop was slammed with projects, which wasn't even a lie. She told me about her weekend. Brunch with Catherine and Ashley, some shopping, catching up on work emails. Standard Victoria weekend. I asked her how work was going. She launched into a 10-minute story about office politics and some project drama that I honestly couldn't follow and didn't care about. Used to be I'd at least pretend to pay attention. Now I just let her talk while I thought about other things. She finally asked if I wanted to get dinner Thursday. I told her I'd check my schedule and let her know. Wednesday evening, I drove to Melissa's dad's house in the suburbs. Nice neighborhood, well-kept homes, the kind of place where people actually knew their neighbors. Robert Patterson answered the door. Tall guy, friendly face, dressed in jeans and a polo shirt with grease stains on it. He shook my hand like we were old friends and immediately led me to the garage. The Mustang was a mess. Not terrible, just clearly the project of someone who knew enough to be dangerous, but not enough to finish properly. He'd gotten the bodywork about 70% done, had the engine partially disassembled, had parts organized in labeled boxes that covered every surface. We spent about 3 hours in that garage. I walked him through what he needed to do next, pointed out a few mistakes he'd made that would cause problems down the line, suggested some better approaches to the engine rebuild. He soaked up every word, asked smart questions, took notes. Melissa came home around 8. She'd been at a fundraising dinner for her nonprofit. She walked into the garage in a dress and heels, saw us both covered in grease, and just laughed. "I see you two are having fun," she said. Her dad was like a kid on Christmas morning. Started telling her about everything we'd covered, how much clearer the project seemed now, how I'd solved problems he'd been stuck on for months. She smiled at me. "Thank you for this." "Seriously. He's been stressed about this car forever." "Happy to help," I said. "It's a great car. Gonna be beautiful when it's done." Robert insisted I stay for dinner. I tried to decline, said I didn't want to impose, but he wasn't taking no for an answer. Melissa changed out of her dress and joined us in the kitchen while Robert ordered pizza. We sat around their kitchen table talking about cars, about the nonprofit Melissa worked for, about the restoration shop. Robert asked detailed questions about the business side of restoration work, seemed genuinely impressed by the operation we ran. Melissa told stories about being dragged to car shows as a kid, learning to appreciate classics even though she couldn't tell you the difference between a carburetor and a catalytic converter. It was comfortable, easy, the kind of evening you have with people who don't need to prove anything to anyone. Around 10:30, I headed out. Robert thanked me again, said I was welcome anytime, insisted on exchanging numbers so he could text me with questions as the project progressed. Melissa walked me to my truck. "That was really kind of you," she said. "He's going to be talking about this for weeks." "It was fun," I said honestly. "Your dad knows his stuff. He just needed someone to help him see the path forward." She hesitated, then said, "Would you want to grab coffee sometime? Like, not car-related, just coffee." I looked at her. She was trying to play it casual, but I could tell she was nervous. "I'd like that," I said. We made plans for Saturday afternoon. I drove home with this weird mix of feelings. Part of me felt guilty, like I was doing something wrong, but the logical part of my brain knew I wasn't. Victoria had made it clear how she saw me. She was grateful to date me publicly. That's not a relationship. That's a public relations strategy. Thursday morning, Victoria texted asking about dinner. I told her something came up at work, maybe this weekend instead. She called me that afternoon, clearly frustrated. "Jake, what's going on? You've been weirdly distant all week." I could have told her right then. Could have said, "Hey, remember when you told your coworkers you were grateful to date me publicly?" Yeah, that bothered me. Let's talk about it. But I didn't want to talk about it. What was there to say? She'd already shown me how she really felt. Talking wasn't going to change that. "Just busy at the shop," I said. "You know how it gets when we're in the middle of multiple projects." She sighed. "Okay, but I feel like you're avoiding me. Is something wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I'll call you this weekend." I could hear the doubt in her voice when she said, "Okay." Saturday afternoon, I met Melissa at a coffee shop downtown. Not anywhere near Victoria's usual spots. Just a normal place with good coffee and comfortable seating. We talked for 3 hours. Not about cars, not about work, just normal conversation. She told me about growing up with an older sister who was the golden child. Always perfect, always achieving. How she'd carved out her own path doing nonprofit work, because she actually cared about making a difference more than making money. I told her about getting into restoration work, how I'd started as a regular mechanic and fell in love with the puzzle of bringing old cars back to life. How satisfying it was to take something broken and make it beautiful again. She asked about my hobbies, my family, what I did for fun. Normal getting to know you stuff. And the whole time, I never felt like I had to justify myself. Never felt like she was measuring me against some corporate standard I didn't meet. When we finally left the coffee shop, it was getting dark. She had a fundraising event that evening. Needed to go get ready. I walked her to her car. "This was really nice," she said. "I'd like to do it again." "Me too," I said. She smiled, got in her car, and drove away. I sat in my truck for a few minutes, thinking. Then I texted Victoria. "Hey, can we talk? Need to have a conversation." She called immediately. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, just think we should talk in person. Can I come by tomorrow?" She agreed, clearly worried but trying to hide it. Sunday afternoon, I showed up at her place. She had coffee made, had clearly been anxious since my text last night. We sat in her living room, and I kept it simple. "I don't think this is working anymore," I said. She looked blindsided. "What? Why? What happened?" "Your company party," I said. "When you told your coworkers you were grateful to date me publicly. That stuck with me." She blinked. "What?" "Jake, that was just a joke. I didn't mean anything by it." "Yeah, I don't think it was a joke. I think it's how you actually see me. And I can't be in a relationship with someone who sees me that way." She started backpedaling immediately. Said I was overreacting, that I'd taken it out of context, that she thought the world of me, that I was being too sensitive. I just let her talk. When she finally ran out of steam, I said, "Look, you deserve to be with someone who fits into your world. Someone you don't have to justify or explain to your coworkers. Someone you're not grateful to be seen with. That's not me, and that's fine. We're just not compatible. She tried to argue more, got emotional, said we could work through this. But I was done. I told her I hoped she found what she was looking for, wished her well with her career, and left. She texted me for days afterward, apologizing, asking to talk, saying she'd made a mistake. I kept my responses short and kind. No anger, no drama, just clear boundaries. After about a week, the texts stopped. I kept helping Robert with his Mustang, went over there twice a week, spent hours in that garage working through the restoration. He was good company, easy to talk to, genuinely appreciative of the help. Melissa and I started seeing each other regularly. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates. Dinners turned into weekend activities. She introduced me to her friends from the nonprofit world. I introduced her to some of my crew from the shop. A month in, we made it official. Started posting pictures together on social media, the normal relationship stuff. Robert was thrilled, kept making jokes about how I'd won him over with car knowledge, and that was clearly the way to his heart. About 6 weeks after I'd broken up with Victoria, Melissa invited me to her dad's company event, some big corporate celebration for hitting their annual targets. Formal event, fancy venue, the whole deal. I asked if she was sure she wanted me there. Told her I wasn't exactly a corporate event kind of guy. She laughed. My dad specifically requested you be there. He wants to introduce you to everyone as the guy who's helping him finish his Mustang. Plus, I want you there. So I went. Wore a nice suit, showed up with Melissa looking absolutely stunning in a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. Robert introduced me to everyone as his daughter's boyfriend and the restoration expert who was helping him with his car. People were actually interested, asking intelligent questions about the process, sharing their own classic car stories. And then, about an hour into the event, I saw her, Victoria, standing across the room with Catherine and Ashley, holding a glass of sparkling cider, looking polished and professional. Our eyes met. Her face went through about 6 different emotions in 3 seconds. Shock, confusion, hurt, anger. I smiled, nodded, turned back to my conversation. Melissa noticed. You okay? Yeah, I said. Just saw someone I used to know. Victoria made her way over about 10 minutes later. Catherine and Ashley trailing behind her like backup singers. Jake, she said, her voice tight. What are you doing here? I'm here with Melissa, I said simply. Her eyes flicked to Melissa, who was standing next to me with her hand in mine. I could see Victoria doing the math. Melissa Patterson. Patterson, as in Robert Patterson, her boss. You're dating Mr. Patterson's daughter, Victoria said flatly. That's generally what I'm here with Melissa means, I said. Melissa, because she's genuinely kind and had no context for the tension, said, Do you two know each other? We used to date, Victoria said before I could answer. Until about 2 months ago. Oh, Melissa said, glancing at me. Victoria's expression was hard. How did you even meet? Community Garden Volunteer Day, Melissa said easily. He helped out, we got talking, and I introduced him to my dad because he's been trying to restore a Mustang forever. Jake's been helping him with it. I could see Victoria processing this. Could see her realizing that I'd met Melissa while we were still together. That I'd moved on fast. That I was now dating her boss's daughter. Catherine, never one to read a room, said, Well, this is awkward. Not really, I said. Victoria and I ended things. I met Melissa after. Pretty straightforward. That was a lie, technically. I'd met Melissa before the breakup. But I hadn't done anything wrong. Hadn't cheated. Hadn't even really pursued anything until after I'd ended things with Victoria. Victoria knew it, though. Could see it in her face. She knew I'd met Melissa while we were together. Knew I'd made a choice about who I wanted to be with. Knew I'd chosen the daughter of her boss over her. I need to go, Victoria said abruptly. She turned and walked away, Catherine and Ashley following. Melissa looked at me. That was weird. Yeah, I said. Sorry about that. Don't apologize. Old relationships are always awkward when you run into them. We stayed at the event for another hour. Robert kept introducing me to people, clearly proud to show off his daughter's boyfriend. Melissa was relaxed and happy, completely unbothered by the Victoria situation. On the drive home, she asked about it. I gave her the honest version. We'd dated for 18 months, it hadn't worked out. We'd broken up about 2 months ago. Did you meet me before or after? She asked. Before, I said. But nothing happened. I ended things with her before I asked you out. She was quiet for a minute. Then she said, So you met me, realized you wanted something different, and ended your relationship. Pretty much, I said. That's actually really mature, she said. Most guys would have just cheated or strung both people along. I appreciated that she saw it that way. Monday morning, Robert called me. He was laughing. So apparently there's some drama at the office, he said. One of my senior analysts, Victoria something, went to HR this morning claiming you were harassing her by showing up at the company event. I groaned. Seriously? Yeah. HR called me in to discuss it. I told them you were there as my daughter's guest, that you and Melissa have been dating for 6 weeks, and that I specifically invited you. They asked if I knew you and Victoria used to date. I said I didn't, but that it didn't matter since you were Melissa's guest, and didn't approach Victoria at all. What did HR say? I asked. They're looking into it. Apparently Victoria's claiming you're dating Melissa to get back at her or something. Made some accusations about you stalking her or harassing her. That's insane, I said. I haven't contacted her at all since we broke up. She's the one who was texting me constantly. Do you still have those texts? Robert asked. I did. I'd saved everything just in case. Sent them to Robert, who forwarded them to HR. Tuesday afternoon, Melissa texted me. Her dad had given her a heads up about the HR situation. She was annoyed on my behalf. Victoria sounds like a piece of work, she texted. Don't worry about it. HR can see it's nonsense. Wednesday morning, Robert called again. So HR talked to Victoria yesterday, he said. Apparently she got pretty emotional. Made a lot of accusations about you being manipulative and dating Melissa as revenge. HR asked her for any evidence, texts, emails, anything that would suggest harassment or stalking. Let me guess, I said. She had nothing. Correct. Then they asked her about the texts she sent you after the breakup. Turns out you blocking her number after weeks of messages doesn't exactly support her harassment claim. I hadn't actually blocked her, just stopped responding. But I wasn't going to correct that detail. They also asked her about your relationship timeline. Robert continued. She told them you two broke up suddenly, that you gave no real reason, that she suspected you'd already started seeing someone else. When HR asked if she had any proof of that, she said no, just a feeling. So what happens now? I asked. HR's closing the complaint as unfounded, but they're also noting in her file that she made accusations against an employee's family member's guest without any supporting evidence. It's not a formal reprimand, but it's not great for her either. She's going to blame me for this, I said. Probably, Robert agreed, but there's not much she can do about it. She filed a complaint that turned out to be false. That's on her, not you. He paused, then said, for what it's worth, Melissa really likes you, and I think you're good for her. So try not to let this corporate drama bother you too much. Thanks, Robert, I said. Thursday evening, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Victoria, texting from a different phone. You did this on purpose. You met her while we were together. You used me to get to her. I stared at the message for a long moment. I could have ignored it. Could have blocked this number too. But something made me respond. Victoria, I met Melissa by chance at a volunteer event. I helped her dad with his car because that's what I do. I didn't pursue anything with her until after we broke up. You want to believe I did this to hurt you? Go ahead. But the truth is simpler. I met someone who treats me like an equal. And I chose that over staying with someone who was grateful to date me publicly. I blocked the number before she could respond. Friday night, Melissa and I went to dinner at a nice Italian place downtown. She'd had a long week at work, was tired but happy. We talked about the fundraising event she was planning, about her dad's Mustang progress, about a weekend trip we were thinking about taking. She reached across the table and took my hand. Thank you for being so patient with all this drama. I know it's been a weird situation. It's not your fault your dad's employee is my ex-girlfriend, I said. Still, it's complicated. Not that complicated, I said. I dated someone who didn't respect me. I ended it. I met you. Now I'm here. She smiled. When you put it that way, it sounds simple. It is simple, I said. People just like to make things complicated. 2 months later, Robert finished his Mustang. We spent a Saturday doing the final detail work, making sure everything was perfect. He took it for a test drive with Melissa and me in the passenger seats, grinning like an idiot the whole time. This is incredible, he kept saying. I can't believe we actually finished it. You did most of the work, I said. I just pointed you in the right direction. Jake, you saved this project. I was about to give up on it. We drove around for an hour, the three of us, windows down, classic rock playing on the radio Robert had installed. It was one of those perfect moments where everything just feels right. That evening, Melissa and I went back to my place. We ordered food, watched a movie, just existed comfortably in each other's space. During a quiet moment, she said, My dad thinks you're the best thing that's happened to me in years. Your dad's biased because I helped him finish his car, I said. Maybe, but I think you're the best thing that's happened to me in years too. I kissed her. I'm pretty sure you're the best thing that's happened to me in years. So that works out. She laughed. We're disgustingly functional together. I'll take functional over dramatic any day, I said. About 3 months after the HR incident, I heard through mutual friends that Victoria had quit her job at Robert's company. Apparently, the whole situation had made things awkward enough that she'd decided to find employment elsewhere. I didn't feel bad about it. She'd made her choices. She'd treated me like I was beneath her, made accusations when I moved on, tried to create problems where none existed. Those were her decisions, not mine. Melissa and I kept building our relationship. Simple stuff, dinners, movies, helping her dad with various projects, attending her nonprofit events. She met my family. I met more of hers. We fell into an easy rhythm that didn't require justification or explanation. 6 months in, we moved in together. Got a place halfway between her work and the shop, somewhere we could both call home. Her dad helped us move, spent the whole day making jokes about how I'd infiltrated his family through classic car knowledge. It's a legitimate strategy, I said, carrying boxes up the stairs. Best strategy ever, he agreed. That night, after everything was moved in and her dad had left, Melissa and I sat on our new couch in our new living room, surrounded by unpacked boxes. You know what I like about you? She said. You never made me feel like I had to be anyone other than who I am. Same, I said. You never made me feel like my job or my background mattered more than who I actually am as a person. That's such a low bar, she said. You'd be surprised, I said. She leaned against me. I'm really glad you showed up at that garden volunteer day. Me too, I said. Best random decision I ever made. A year after I'd broken up with Victoria, Melissa and I were at another one of her dad's company events. I'd become a regular fixture at these things, comfortable in the corporate environment now that I wasn't being treated like a charity case. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.